Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I am your host, Rob. That's correct. Welcome to our weekly stats show, where we discuss all of the Age of Sigmar stats. It's week 2, and I'm very excited to have the man, the myth, the legend, the man behind the sheets, the king of XL, the man himself, LLV. Hi, LLV.
Hello, Rob.
Are you happy that I finally...
I'm not just a
Oh, go on.
I'm not just a computer. I'm a real person.
I hope our voice communication system breaks down and you start going a bit electronic like we get sometimes. That would be putting pay to that myth. So welcome everyone to the show, and thank you so much from me initially just for being on the show, Mr. LLV.
Yeah, thank you.
Is it correct that your friends refer to you as just L?
Yeah, sure.
Good. Right, so yeah, thank you. And again, me and the entire community pretty much are massively thankful that you've done all the hard work to put all these stats together for us. How's the process been?
Yeah. It varies. Sometimes the process is very easy. Other times it's starting Twitter campaigns and try to track down people I've never seen or heard of before. There's still a fella out there by the name of Lyndon Wedgwood who has eluded me so far. So,
yeah, so far he's the only person you've been unable to track down, which is pretty impressive globally.
Yeah, I'm just baffled how he could have played 5 people that weekend and nobody remembered his name. Poor guy.
At this point, I think it must have been a pseudonym, which I really respect. I like that there are people playing at tournaments as pseudonyms. Hi, Joe Cryer. Hope you're doing really well. Hello to everyone on our Twitch chat, Mr. Bolt. Hello to everyone who's listening to the podcast, and obviously everyone listening on YouTube or Facebook. Thanks very much wherever you're listening. We'll be taking questions live on Twitch. And again, massive shout out to everyone on Patreon and who's a subscriber on Twitch, like Old Boy Phil, who's in the chat right now. You guys are helping create this. This should be live as well soon, a kind of shortened down YouTube video of this elongated stats chat, which is fun. Did you happen to catch that last week, LLV?
Yeah, I really liked it. I get caught up in the matrix sometimes, and I want to put more and more numbers in. So seeing those numbers just distilled down to a couple of figures, really, I think that would really help the community as well. And the feedback I saw as well was really good. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It looked like others did as well.
Yes, we had some good feedback. And again, if you guys are listening, you got more, love to hear it. As always, this is only week 2, but I want it to be more professional, cooler, more information that people want. So that's going to be good. And that's why you're on today, because Mr. LLV, you got all the stats. So should we talk about some?
Yeah, sure.
Also, you've had a shout out in our Twitch chat. Hook and Pin says, woohoo!
Nice.
Good. Hi, John, as well. Hello, OJ. Hope you're all well. So this weekend there was an event, wasn't there, Mr. LLV? There was Du Bois event.
Yeah, Du Bois, over in the east, I believe Chicago area, I want to say, maybe a little bit more east. I'm bad at geography. There were 56 players though. Okay. So it was a large tournament.
Yeah, it definitely was. I know for a fact that our stats smashing machine, and also my expectation smashing machine, Mr. Bill Souza, was over there, and I see that he came 9th with his first sheet of course. Yeah,
I think it's hard to discern totally. I don't have the win-losses yet, but I believe he 4-1, and that list has been his baby. Basically all Terrorgeists ridden by Abhorrent Ghoul Kings, and then all his units are being summoned.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's smart, and it's been catching people out. And he's won an event with them, and his friend has won an event with them. So coming 9th is not unreasonable at all, realistically.
Yeah, Alan. I'm gonna kill his last name. Alan Baramovich is actually an ex-40K player. Actually, was quite big during like 6th and 7th edition.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Bill's taken him under his wing. He played Bill's list and won an event with that. And actually, the boys, he brought a corn list, the Bloodthirster Heavy 3 Bloodthirster list. And he actually won the whole thing.
Yes, he did. He did. So yes, Alan Bramovich. So he took a bunch of Bloodthirsters. Is this what was in his list?
Yeah, 3 Bloodthirsters, a Forge World Exalted, I think a couple of Slaughter Priests, and then minimum units of Blood Reavers. Wow.
Okay. Well, it'd be interesting to see if he's been doing what has been officially nicknamed the Bloodthirster Bomb, which is the ability to do AOE damage from a Bloodthirster of incessant rage and do multiple mortal wounds within 8 inches.
Yeah. That's basically what that list was, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. So that's really fun. You guys will try and get the list up ASAP about that. This is going to be so much easier in not too long. Yes, so we'll get that list up for you at some point. So big shout out to Alan. I don't know if that's his first major for AOS, but that's smashing. And really good to see also Blazer Corn list win the event. So that's he's got to be really chuffed. And then Jordan Watt with Nurgle in second. Nurgle,
yeah,
it's been a couple of months since Nurgle have placed. Oh no, actually it hasn't. No, Nurgle consistently do okay, don't they? So big shout out to Jordan as well.
Yeah, they started AOS 2 well. They dropped off a little bit. They actually have a horrible matchup against Daughters by the numbers so far, from what I've seen. And this list was actually a thrice-fold Befoulment list. So that's the Rotigus and 2 Great Unclean ones.
Nice. We've seen, so that's been bandied around a bit before as well. Much like the Chaos list, the Bloodthirster Bomb, we've seen that gone to a couple of events here in the UK. So it's nice to see that that's being run over in America as well. And then thrice-fold Befoulment as well. I played that all the way back in February at the Sheffield Slaughter. It's just they are, if you can't take down one of those Great Unclean ones ASAP, you can't really death by 1,000 cuts to the army. You need to be able to nuke a thing, which can be a challenge for some armies because they attrition more than they outright damage. And with access to...
I think it's mission dependent as well. Getting those unclean ones where you need them can be a bit of an issue. They get bogged down in combat is the largest thing I've seen.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I was just asking in the chat actually. I wonder why everything from Khorne is always called a bomb at the end of it, like a Bloodthirster bomb. But this isn't a Great Unclean One bomb. Maybe it's not quite as catchy, is it? A GUO bomb. Hi, Mr. Kabowski. Hi, Donaldinho. Hope you're well. Hi, Boy Phil. That's what I wanted for Nurgle list with 90 play bearers as well. Yeah, Thrice-Fold Befoulment is really good. And then Daughters of Cain, not making us feel too bad. And there they are in third place.
Third place, yeah. Interestingly, only 2 Daughters of Cain at this event, which is oddly consistent with the US meta right now. People just are not picking up Daughters as much as the Australian and UK meta. So they came third, and then...
And so, and by meta, what we mean, because some people throw that word around and they don't have context for it. By context, we mean the percentage of armies being played in that environment.
Correct, yeah, in that particular region. So in the US, not many Daughters. 2 at this event. 1 came third and 1 came 47th.
Oh no! Stop letting the stats down. Who were you? Joshua Pond? No, that wasn't Joshua Pond. Nate Trenton-Hull?
Nate Trenton-Hull let the DOK team down, yeah. That might be their first time they only won 1 game at an event, maybe. So
that's not to make you feel bad, Nate. Don't worry about it. But if you're there painting your models at home and being like, "Oh no, they've called me out," so someone's got to get called out at some point. So just ride with it. Beast of Chaos there in 32nd with Michael Simeon. That's exciting. Have they done any better? What the hell am I seeing here from Jonathan Green? I'm seeing Gutbusters come 20th.
Yeah, they're up there.
That is blowing my mind. Good job. That's not bad at all, is it?
Yeah.
Brian
Gutbusters are good against the big monster heavy armies, just with all the damage they can do. So with what came top, if this event a lot of people brought their monsters, then I could see Gutbusters doing reasonable.
Yeah. Big shout out also to Papa Warcribes, who has joined us on Twitch and become a subscriber. Appreciate that a lot. And then, so we've got Khorne, Blades of Khorne, number 1, Nurgle number 2, Daughters of Cain number 3, and then you've got Idoneth, Sylvaneth, Khorne, Stormcast Eternals, pretty much all of the things that you're seeing. Flesh Eater Court, and it isn't until you get into 10th, 11th that you're seeing Legions and Nagash or Grand Hosts and Nagash that you're seeing here, which is a bit of a change, really.
Yeah, big change from last week. Legions took all podium places, 1, 2, and 3 at the big UK event last week. But yeah, they didn't manage to do that this week, it seems.
Yes, that's exciting. And then, again, you got to watch out for people like Nate Punches and also Curtis Cluett, both rocking Idoneth Deepkin. Idoneth Deepkin always sneak 4 wins, sometimes 5 wins, and no one really goes, oh, Idoneth Deepkin are a problem, but they're a big problem on the table. And I feel that they only lose games by a fraction sometimes. And interestingly, again, Nicholas Walters with Iron Jaws in 15th place. So big shout out to him. That's a really good performance based on how they're doing generally.
He beat the curve.
He beat the curve. He's got to feel good about that, just beating the curve.
I think any Iron Jaw players winning 3 games right now should feel really good.
Yeah, they should be like, I am achieving. And also, am I seeing this right? Simon Lewin with Scryer, Anthony Brosseau with Scryer as well. 2 Scryer armies coming 3 plus wins or more. Decent. And Caleb with his Zinch, again, above the curve.
Yeah. Also, got to give a shout out to Robert Nelson there, 23rd with one of your favourite armies, Rob, Legion of Asgore.
Yes.
Looks like he's keeping the 60% win rate going there as well.
That's right. We're never getting nerfed at 60% win rate. Everyone's leaving us alone. Yeah, everyone's like, they're fine. But secretly, we're all planning. We know that there are points changes coming in January, or we hope that there are points changes coming in January. And if they aren't, but then we're hoping to like skip them and then have like at least another 6 months of smashing Warhammer. That's the plan. Really interesting, LLV. Thanks to your stats and generally this entire process that we're doing with Honest Wargamer. Really excited to see where this goes in like 2 or 3 years. Can't wait, for a General's Handbook to come out and then all of the Sylvaneth players are like, look, first 6 months, let's just keep it low key. Yeah, just 3 wins. They just call it a day. Yeah, then we'll power through the last 6 months. And I'm like, that's a smart move. Well done, Sylvaneth News.
Yeah, I think, didn't Laurie do that last week?
Yes.
Laurie Huggett Wild, however you say that?
Yeah, it's Laurie Huggett Wiblet.
Whippet? Wiblet, that's the one. Okay, now I know how to pronounce his name right. That's good to know. Yeah, because he had that game and it looked like he just threw it away on camera, so there must have been something going on.
The camera does it. Well, because he does it. He did it for the entire Sylvaneth faction, which I respect. Labinsky in our chat has just said, hey, new Nighthawk player here. I'm enjoying your content on YouTube. Thought I'd drop bye to say hi while you're alive. Thanks, Labinsky. Appreciate that. And also hi to Moon Tyrannid. What are we talking? We're talking about the Age of Sigmar stats. So that's Du Bois GT. Not really like a massive surprise, apart from I've got to say Alan's list is pretty much a new list on the block. It's been doing the rounds here in the UK, but hasn't won anything. So big shout out to Alan doing so well with it. And again, Jordan, same thing. Both Alan and Jordan, those lists have been seen before a couple of tournaments here in the UK and over in Australia. But to finally see them podiuming with those lists is a big deal. So I think that they've got to feel really chuffed with that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I have a couple more pointers on the boys. Firstly, Ben Moley in 5th place with Sylvaneth. He's also one of them players that are very well known on the 40k scene, and looks to have switched sides there. So it's interesting seeing these really big names in 40k in the US start to come over to Age of Sigmar. Be good to keep an eye on them.
Yes.
And secondly, one of our own, I think, is in chat, Mr. Martin Orlando. It's not shown on the sheet we're looking at here, but he actually took down Best Painted for the whole event.
Oh, good man. Good man. And I'm sure there was also a Best Sports as well. And also, so whoever won that, big shout out to Best Sports and Best Painted. Martin's army is gorgeous. It's pretty. He's done loads of painting, is what he's done, which I think is a tactical move to try to win that event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so should we get on with so that's the Du Bois. We haven't had a chance to plug that into our matrix from last week, but there's still loads of stuff to look at from last week. And before we do go on to talk about that, every time we do input some new stats, or there's been a tournament at the weekend, you were telling me that there'll only ever be very small shifts realistically in our percentages over time.
Yeah, in the factions that have been well represented, I mean, we're looking at over 6,200 matches at this point. So a win here, a loss there isn't really going to affect the percentages per se. What it's going to affect mainly are like the top 3s and top 10s as far as visually when looking at them. So unless an outlying faction, like if someone came out of their host, started playing Dispossessed, and 3 possessed players took down a big event, then you'd see a big swing. But if it's just Daughters of Cain, Nurgle, and Khorne finishing top, we're not really going to see a huge swing in those percentages.
No, but what I think will be interesting to watch over the course of time, and it's going to be fun to keep an update, is where in a couple of months we're going to see things like the meta percentage, so how many of each army's played. Although probably by the next version of the General's Handbook, we're assuming when we talk about these stats, I don't know anything from Games Workshop, but we're assuming that the next General's Handbook will be a year after the first, so in the summer. That would be my assumption. So we'll talk about it like that. Probably for AOS 2, Legions of Nagash will end up being over the course of this season, so season 2. Will be the most popular army, but it will be interesting to see if that changes over time. Will Daughters get more players? Will their match win percentage? It has to come down eventually, right? From 71%.
Yeah. If people keep winning, though, maybe not. I mean, when I put the boys in there, it may drop a little bit. We've got someone came 3rd, but then obviously someone maybe only won. It might be their first 1 win recorded. So maybe that'll drop down to maybe 71% instead of 71.6, for instance. But it's not going to affect the overall table, looking at it as it is right now.
No, but it will be interesting to see what stats, what changes do bump up those numbers as well. It'll also be interesting to see if there's meant to be a January FAQ. It'll be nice to see a pre and post analysis at the end of the year. I think when we start to look at those stats and kind of like how much did they shift between those 2 6-month periods. It's just cool stuff to look at, man. Thanks very much for doing it. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought. I was on a bit of a hiatus from Warhammer. I've been playing that other game, Magic the Gathering, and I was just used to having all of this information at my fingertips. And I think a lot of games are like that, whether it's Magic, Street Fighter is another one, a competitive game I used to play. And I could go on any website and say, okay, what's doing well? Maybe for me personally, it wasn't really wanting to choose the best army. It was wanting to try and find that army like the Idoneth or the Maggot King and Nurgle, that outlying army that can do well that no one really suspects. But without numbers, it was impossible. So that's when I started typing these all into a spreadsheet a few months ago.
Yes, it's been a long road, and your frustration at some of the TOs not the TOs, but just the way the information has been kept has been a struggle to gather sometimes. But the community's been wonderful, right, in reaching out and helping getting that info.
Oh, totally. I couldn't have done this without the community. I've crowdsourced a number of results. And TOs, they will run events how they've always run events, which can be frustrating to a degree. Sometimes I'm thinking, just use an app is what my inner voice is saying. So that, I mean, if people want to make my life easier, using these tournament apps that are out there and available, and I believe free, it helps get all those stats. And it should also help running the event, from what I understand.
Yeah, everyone wins in that scenario, which is a real positive.
Yeah.
So there's some guys in the chat who want. So Luvo said, would like to see another column in the table, specifically the average volume of drops. It would require us to get every list, Luvo, which we currently don't have access to. Give us time. And then another one was like the most picked unit. Again, that's going to be a struggle to do and will come over time. So don't worry, there'll be more. And then a final question, out of interest, why do you guys sort the list by 5 and O's? Would be interesting to come up with a formula that attempts to actually rank the best armies by match win percentage, taking into account the number of matches played. So Phoenix Temple up randomly at the top.
Yeah. And there's multiple tables. This one was trying to the one we're looking at right now, just try to distill everything and get as much information on as possible. But the issue with sorting by match win percentage, unless I get in touch with a mathematician to work out a number other than match win percentage based on the volume of wins to rank things, it gets a little bit tricky. So I think what I wanted to see anyway was which armies are going to tournaments, winning 4+, 5+ consistently. The match win percentage is there just as almost a backup of that. So in Daughters of Cain's case, they're at the top regardless if we're looking at match win percentage or 5+ wins. They've just got solid numbers across the board.
Yes, yeah, and it's personally I like this process. 5 and 0 is something that that's really valuable information for me, and I also like to see where they settle the most results. You know, like if you look at the weekly videos that I've started to do, when I start to put the 5 and 0s into a kind of a more readable chart. That's not offensive, LLV. This is perfect. I read this all the time, but just something for the simpletons like I to see some bars. Yeah, I'm like, those bars are getting bigger, higher at the top. I can understand more things. You can really start to see that, some really do settle into that 50% or 3+ wins, which is above 50% realistically, isn't it?
Yeah. It is tough. And again, looking at the sheet, you've got Daughters of Cain. That they've got the most 5+ wins, and they've got the second most 4+ wins. You look at Legion of Nagash, they've got the most 4+ wins and the second most 5+ wins, and that's really what's driving those factions, right? And then you're looking at poor Ironjaws with their 7-0 wins. So yeah, putting that all into a nice handy chart, I think, is really good for people.
Yes, this is just a chat. An idea has just come up in the chat that's just been fantastic from OJ. Yeah. Could this feed into an end-of-year awards thing with rankings of some comedy categories? I absolutely think we can do that.
Yeah, sure.
The Dundies of Age of Sigmar stats is on the way. No problem. And also Star Player Awards would also be really fantastic as well. Maybe some sort of worldwide rankings. So
worldwide rankings. Wow.
What the hell? Don't stop this. Stop this. So yeah, I really like looking at those trends, and that really helps. And I've got a question from Mazva in the chat. He's asked twice. I want to make sure I cover it. Hey, he says both Stormcast and Deepkin have insane deep striking. So they deep strike outside of 9 inches for the enemy. Was wondering if you and LLV find this a problem. Sure, Heart plus 6-inch charge is nasty, making just not fun games. So realistically, Mazva, yes, that's in the game. Was wondering if you. It's not a problem. Well, it is a problem, but it's not a problem. It's a problem you can deal with. So chaff screens.
Yeah.
So actually, Mazda, if you go back and listen all the way back at the start of Age of Sigmar 2, I talked about this. I did 3 different shows. I did one about Marauders, I did one about Eels, and I did one about Nighthorn, about Grimghast Reapers. If you listen to those 3, I discussed the fact that there's 2 of those that got some strong deep striking mechanics, and I do keep referencing Stormcast as well. And that Marauders are my example of chaff screens that you're able to use. So if you go back and listen to that, there's an in-depth discussion, hopefully, about that, which is more than I can fit into here.
Yeah.
Do you remember those, LLV?
Quickly, they're great videos. And what's actually interesting, and it also comes out in the stats a little bit, is Stormcast actually... First, you've got Legions of Nagash being like a huge percentage of armies that you're likely to run into out there. And Stormcast actually have not a great matchup against them. It's about 60-40 in favor of Legions of Nagash. And I think that is because they can screen so well. They've just got so many cheap, disposable bodies that they can put down and eat that charge and then just counterattack with like the Grimghast Reapers or something similar. So I think that's really what's been holding those Stormcast deep striking lists back. And Idenef to a similar degree, but the fact that Idenef can fly helps them a little bit. But yeah, that's the biggest issue with Stormcast. They don't fly. Yeah. So when they draw, Stormcast Army Book version 3 coming in March, flying Stormcast units.
Yeah. Someone's like, what don't Stormcast do when they don't fly? Oh dear. Okay, get ready for Stormcast. I mean, there are flying Stormcast units, but realistically, the units that are super destructive in Age of Sigmar 2, Grimghast Reapers and the Morsar Guard for the Arnethik and the Eels, they're both flying units, and that's what makes them. And again, the reason I'm very surprised by the Daughters of Cain win rate. Because they don't fly. I know Marathi does, and that's an issue. But I don't. I think they do. I mean, you could just go for dealing. I don't know. There's loads to talk about. Yeah. We're going to talk about on another show where we're going to talk about Daughters of Cain, Legions of Nagash, because the answer to both of them is really kill the characters, which probably means shooting. But I'm going to talk about that a bit. This week, one of the key, the 4 factions I picked up on to talk about is specifically Flesh Eater Courts, it's Seraphon, it's Disciples of Tzeentch, and it is Bone Splitters. Those are the 4 that I picked on to discuss this week, and you'll see them in our kind of shorter video that will go up on YouTube not long after this video finishes airing, realistically. So I hope you guys get to see that. And if you listen to the podcast, obviously just jump over onto YouTube. So first off is Seraphon LLV. Really low win rate, and I'm very surprised by that.
Yeah, I think they started pre-AOS 2 very well, and then the big nerf hammer came.
The 2 weeks later nerf hammer for the most obvious problem ever. So yeah, there was 2 weeks of Age of Sigmar 2 with 2 or 3 weeks actually of Age of Sigmar 2 with 2 pretty major tournaments. There was the Six Nations event, and there was the Bravery One British Open, so the Bobo event that you guys will have heard. And summoning was just outrageous from the Seraphon. But also Lord Croak as well was there. But both of those got hit with a beat stick a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot, in fact. And then since then, I don't feel like the Seraphon have recovered. But I actually have been speaking to I've been speaking to some Seraphon players, nay today and yesteryear. And specifically, would you like to hear some things that the gents have said?
Yeah.
So I said to both parties, this is Jeremy, I said, what would happen if I take Ripperdactyls away from you? And the reason that I asked this was because I feel like there's a way, and we're going to be talking it on the show, me and Nathan are going to be talking it through later, there's a way for maybe Seraphon they're focusing on the Ripperdactyls a lot. And I'm not saying that taking them away is correct, but that was my first port of call. Because what you're looking at is a really fighty game, and you're going to have to listen to this in long form later. But basically, I thought take Ripperdactyls away, listen to it later. if you want to know. And so I said, so Jeremy says, the more I think about Rippers, the more I'm convinced that they are not a trap, but that Seraphon players are leaning on them too heavily. They are definitely not a silver bullet. That being said, I think they have a role in most lists. Shadow Strike and the threat of Rippers can have a big impact on opponent's setup and can make them change their strategy right from the beginning, which is good. I think as a community, though, we may be dropping the ball after that. We don't have a good plan if the Rippers get boxed out, and if the rest of the list can stand up on its own if the Rippers flop. I also think that several units of 4 Razors are incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, their actual cost, as in financially, is prohibitive. To get units of 4 is $500. So because Jeremy's over in America, that's almost enough for a full 2K army of another army. I'd love to see somebody do it though, but it won't be me.
Do you think that's the big thing that's holding the Seraphon back? Is people had armies built around a certain mechanic, and with it being an older model line as well, people just don't want to go out and invest that kind of money into what is good now.
Potentially, and then no one really likes to play a game where it's pay to win, you know. And realistically, unless you're playing in Games Workshop events, I'm pretty certain you can find. I saw someone make some Razordons out of the Saurus Cav units, the Cold One Knights, quite effectively. Yeah. I think you could probably, and most people would be comfortable with you proxying those incredibly expensive units. But if you start going 5-0 everywhere, maybe it'll become an issue. But you can always use a blank base to test the games, right?
Yeah, true.
And see if it's up there. And again, one more Seraphon quote from Full-Time Nerd over on Twitter, so @TimeNerd. I said, what would happen if I took Rippers away from you? He said, upset. Really, the threat of them alone is a big reason for the inclusion. The fact one can drop 3 away is massive. The other 6 is either a massive distraction that they have to deal with because of the 14-inch movement. I had them against Craig, Navmar's Dreadwood, and used them as bait, put them out on the flank away from everything to make him choose to deal with them or not. It's another decision they have to make. He sent Durthu out to have to deal, and then he did nothing else for the game. He said, I could drop the Razors for another engine, but I like the balance of movement capabilities. And he said, what were you thinking? And I was like, probably not as much as you smart man. That's why I've asked you. So it's interesting. I don't really know what the answer is there, but they're posting some really interesting stats.
They're a bit all over the place. You get obviously the percentages. I mean, they're mainly down 1 and 2 win, 1 and 0 win, should I say, which is not good. But then you get a list that goes 4 games or 3 games, and I think the list that won the Polish tournament, it went 4 and a draw because the top 2 drew that tournament, which is why you don't see a 5-0 in Seraphon. But they didn't use Rippers at all. They used Pterodons, which was interesting to me.
Yes, 12 Pterodons I saw on that list, and I keep every time I see a Seraphon player, I said, "Hey, I know about this Polish fellow who took 12 Pterodons." And then they'd all do the face that I initially did when I saw it, which was what? And then they start like looking at in War Scroll Builder, and they're like, "What?" So maybe there's something there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the event we just looked at with all those monsters in the top 3, those dropping rocks are gonna you're just gonna be able to delete 1, maybe 2 monsters, which would give you good results after that, right? So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really, and you've still got summoning, and I'm going to talk about the summoning maybe being a trap as well. Again, catch me and Nathan later on talking about that tonight on the Honest Wargamer, or listen to the next podcast. That'll be the one. So Seraphon, after them, I brought up the fact that then you've got the Disciples of Tzeentch. Again, both of these armies, I did a bit of comparison, very popular in Age of Sigmar before. They both are rocking 4% of the meta. Well, I rounded Seraphon up from 3.5%, which is quite a big deal to round up, but about the same-ish. 44 versus 49 total armies used. But they've got a much better win rate, or they're nearly at 50%, 49.8%, but definitely not the boogeyman that Tzeentch used to be in Age of Sigmar 1.
Yeah, it's crazy what happens when you take people's crutches away. They just can't stand up anymore. No, I don't know what happened.
Well, I think that might be true for both the Seraphon list, Seraphon Army book, and the Disciples of Tzeentch book. So previously you had the Change Host, and you obviously had the Croak-Nado, two famous army lists from Age of Sigmar 1. Neither of which now are really useful for winning tournaments, or that's what the players themselves are saying. So that's why they're taking different lists. But Tzeentch still have like an incredibly strong allegiance ability. They've got a strong battle line unit in Zangor. They've got absolutely smashing like counter punches. The Enlightened are just too cheap now, realistically. They've got good allies, and we're playing in the Realms, and they've got access to spell laws all day. So I'm confused as to why they're not posting more results and wins. And they've only rocked up 3 5+ win results over the course of Age of Sigmar 2 so far. And I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about crutches and bandwagoning. I think Jonathan said it on a show a few weeks ago that there are always going to be a group of players that will move from army to army. And maybe that's what's happened with Disciples, is you've got that player base that were playing Tzeentch because they liked the army and liked the lore. And maybe wasn't, going all out with the Change Host. And maybe a lot of those Change Host players are now playing Daughters of Cain or Legions of Nagash, for instance. But then you've also got the good players. I'll give a shout out to Joe Cryer, who sticks with the Disciples and consistently does well with them still. So yeah, it's an interesting army.
It's an interesting army, and definitely it's been run away from. And again, mirroring my thoughts really with Age of Sigmar at the minute is some people might just be walking away from certain armies in favour of the easier to play. There's a bit of a contentious, I was like, maybe people have left Tzeentch just to go for the equally as easy to play Legions of Nagash. So we'll see if that causes a stir in the comments. But we shall see. I think maybe it's a popularity issue, or maybe they are. It's going to be tough still to get a favourite game vote with Disciples of Tzeentch, just because of the allegiance mechanic is just really offensive. I think no one likes it when people can just choose what they do.
Yeah, you've got that couple of years of PTSD with all the gamers still as well. They see a Tzeentch army and they automatically think, "Yep, I'm not going to have a fun time here." So, you might as well go to the Legion's army, a same reaction, but do better, right? So.
Yeah, and also Symbol's made a really solid point in the chat. Thanks, Symbol. He says it's also really hard to pivot from a Change Host to a Zangor list because realistically it's a completely different set of models. It's not like you're just adding one new unit or one new hero. You are really adding maybe 80 Zangor into the army and dropping your 120 pink horrors and blue horrors out. So. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, realistically, you're buying a new army. So when people buy new armies in this hobby, they tend to get something different. And that's probably what's happened with Disciples.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Next up, so that was those two, and also Worldfalls made an armchair general decision. He says, my armchair hot take is that a Witchfire coven, lots of acolytes firing twice a turn is good in the current meta, but no one has that many acolytes, which I think is fine. And then the other two I looked at were both not as played armies, but both posting such interesting results. So you have Flesh Eater Courts with 2% of the meta roughly, but with a 47% win rate. So on paper that doesn't sound great, but they've won 2 tournaments.
Yeah. I think Bill Souza and Alan Baramovich both using the same list as well.
Yes. And I think that's a key part. It's that same list doing back-to-back events over in the US. So that's kind of the story there. And we're hoping still to interview Bill to get the real facts on that. I wouldn't like to speculate too much, but I think it's just to do with a lot of summoning from those Ghoul Kings. which is fine. But there is a story there to be told with Flesh Eater Course, and I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And then the last one is Bone Splitters. Were you surprised by this?
Yes and no. I mean, I keep saying that shooting is the key to this new Age of Sigmar 2, taking down those hags, taking down the necromancers from legions. So Bone Splitters have that in spades. But I think the lists that have been doing well are the hashtag Nova name. Can't remember it, but the combat the combat orientated lists, not the Cunning Rook.
So big stabbers have been things that people have been looking at. I know for a fact that a lot of ball boys has also been a thing, right. and Ian Spink over here in the UK has been is kind of Bill and Ian should kind of get together and do a doubles team where it's Flesh Eater Course and Bone Splitters, and everyone's like, it's okay, these are shit armies, and then they just get their ass kicked by two apparently incredible generals with their armies. Or I would just pay. Or I just pay to see that game streamed realistically.
That would be great, yeah. And that's what's great about the stats as well. I mean, people can look at it and say, oh, Daughters and Legions are the best. But what about those players out there taking the Flesh Eater Course, taking the Destructions, taking the Bone Splitters and putting up solid numbers with them? As you've said before, the champions of the teams, that's what's really exciting to me. Like, I'd love for someone to pick up a Fire Slayers or Dispossessed army and start going 5-0 at tournaments. That'd be amazing.
That's the future. That's how we do it. That's what we're doing. We're not messing about. And I think shows like this are encouraging people to do those sorts of things. I know for a fact that people have messaged me and said something similar. So I'm looking forward to seeing those results as they come through and interviewing those people. OJ says starting Flesh Eater Course in January, can't wait. And then Luvo says, Ian Spink confused the hell out of me with his Bone Splitters in round 6 at the GT Final. I had no idea how to approach it, he said. Yeah, I just didn't know.
Well, that's the thing about, I'll use the word meta again. We've already described what it was. So the thing about a meta is you can attack it. So you can look at these results, look at charts like this, and say, okay, does my army beat Daughters? Does it beat Legions? Does it beat Stormcast? Does it beat Sylvaneth? On the flip side of that, you can start running Bone Splitters or Legions of Asgore, and people don't have a clue what to do against your army.
Yes. Yeah, they got absolutely no clue what to do against your army, which was my experience playing it, playing Legions of Asgore at least. People were just like, what does it do? Or even Bone Splitters there, if you're not running the Cunning Ruck, people are just, and maybe there's some power there with the Tzeentch army as well. You know, a bunch of Acolytes or even a bunch of Zangor. You know, people are like, okay, Zangor on foot, what do these do? And I know my friend Dan put that to great effect as well recently. So,
yeah, you know you're onto a winner, and this comes from the Magic side, but when I put a card on the table and someone has to pick up the card and read it, that's when you know you've got someone. Same with Warhammer. You describe something to someone and they pick up your war scroll and start reading it. Well, I've never seen this before. That's when you know you can get them with it. So.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And so it'll be interesting to see how these stats develop over the next few months and the week by week. Again, LLV, I can't really say thank you enough. I, for one, I feel incredibly privileged that I get to do the review show on them every Monday. So, like, massive thank you from me on a personal level. But even if it wasn't me, it would be fascinating stats to just be aware of and know. And it does really bring home things like, you know, when people know that they're playing above the curve, or when they're at home painting very delicately and they know that they're underperforming, and someone goes, the stats for this army are low, and the guy still paints like, that's my fault, I'm so sorry. I just like playing Warhammer. I didn't know there'd be numbers involved. This is too much pressure now. Like, Like, don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, and I couldn't have done this without the TOs, firstly putting on the events and then helping get me the results, and then just the player base. The player base has really been supporting this. Anytime I need a result, go on Twitter, and within a day or two, we've basically got all the numbers we need. So yeah, I just want to say big thank you to the community and the TOs out there, and then the Honest Wargamer as well, putting this out there, giving it a platform as far as people know. The Honest Wargamer is the place to go and see what's doing well or not doing well. So, yeah,
and also hopefully
really excited for that.
And also to hopefully give you some answers as to why. That's the exciting fact. I mean, I for one am really excited about using the stats with all of the upcoming event coverage that we've got booked for the Honest Wargamer over the next 6 months or so. You know, just being able to have two armies deploy down and just go cool. By the way, Doors Gate in front of you, they got a 72% win rate, you know, whereas these Iron Jaws, they got a 36% win rate. Like, if these are like, and that sets the Iron Jaws up for a massive victory. Like, it's drama in of itself, which is like, I think the numbers help give us some sort of knowledge that we can use to create more story, which I think is super exciting, you know.
Yeah, that's the future. I'm very looking forward to Crimbobo coming up, the coverage there, and as you said, seeing that Iron Jaws player, or if there's any dispossessed players, take down a Daughters of Cain. If that's on camera, that's going to be really exciting. So, yeah, big thank you to everyone involved.
A big thank you to you. All right, well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. LLV, thank you very much for joining us. We're back later. Me and Nathan are going to be discussing everything that we can think of about. We're going to be talking Seraphon. We're going to be talking about Nathan's destruction list. Oh, Zyko, thanks for subscribing for 8 months in a row. And OJ, thanks for donating 100 bits to the show for LLV, the king of spreadsheets. Nice work, man. That's your official title now, I think, the king of all spreadsheets.
Oh, man.
And don't worry, Puff Nun stuff. You can just watch it back. It's not an issue. Shout out to everyone on Patreon again. Shout out to everyone on Twitch. Me and Nathan later on are going to be talking Seraphon and kind of expanding on what we've talked about on the show here. We're also going to be talking about a list that me and Nathan have created for Moon Clan. A couple of months ago, wow. With a bunch of shamans that he ran recently in a test game. And one of the reasons behind that is we're going to talk about deployment, the first turn mechanic, and choosing to go first. One of the big conversations I think that's worth having is, should you even try to go first anymore? There we go. So we'll be doing that later, and hopefully that makes some sense to some people. And it'll probably just be full of loads of jokes, but... LLV, once again, thank you very much for being on the show. Twitch chat, you guys are wonderful. LLV, you got a shout out to anyone you love? Feel free to make it right now.
Just everyone in the X community. There you go. That's the most political answer I can give.
There you go. That's lovely of you. And also, don't forget, every army is a winning army if you stop being a coward about it.